Let's get started. The learning objectives for this weekend or for today is to introduce you to the different types of peripheral neuropathy and its pathoetiology. We're going to look at the literature that's out there about how acupuncture is effective for different forms of neuropathy. And but in order so that we know how to treat specific types of nerves based on which nerves are involved, we need to review the neuroanatomy of the extremities and their corresponding acupuncture targets, which is the bulk of my research in the past few years. And then I'm going to share with you kneeling techniques on how to target these specific nerves, how to confirm based on the sensation or the movements that are associated with these particular points and nerves so that you know you're doing that point correctly. We'll discuss specific protocols, focusing on the type of neuropathy that are most commonly seen in the day-to-day general practice. Let's begin with some terminologies. What you're looking at here is a nerve cell called a neuron. And there are a couple of parts of the neuron that we're going to be talking a lot about. So I want you to make sure that we all start on the same page. The part of the neuron that communicates with other neuron is called axon. That's this long whippy tail here. But there are actually other cells that likes to attach to this neuron. The cells that attach to the axon part of the neuron is called a Schwann cell. And Schwann cells, by wrapping around the axon, creates something called a myelin sheath. This becomes important because a lot of neurological problems and a lot of metabolic problems results in the loss of this myelin sheath. You may have heard about the term demyelination before. So I want you to be able to mentally picture what's going on at a cellular level when we talk about demyelination. There's also a concept called the nodes of Ranvier. These are little like cell phone tower hopping stations. So you call your long distance to, I call long distance Lauren Brown with my cell phone. It goes to the nearest cell phone tower in Markham, Ontario, then jumps to some central Ontario one station, then it jumps to Vancouver. Those jumping hubs are what the nodes of Ranvier is all about. It allows for what's called a jumping oscillatory type of communication. And if you don't have the myelin sheath, you don't have these nodes around VA, and then you don't have these cell phone tower hubs, and your communication breaks down. So if the neuron is a sensory neuron, then the sensation feeling breaks down. If the neuron is a motor neuron, then the movements gets jerky and breaks down, so on and so forth. Okay. Let's take a closer look at this myelin sheath business. So the myelin sheath is actually a cell. Okay, these cells are called oligodendrites, and they have these membranes that project. They have names called outer tongue, inner tongue, and they actually wrap around the axon. And then once it wraps around it, they kind of continue to coil all the way around it, like serving as an insulation. So the analogy is like if the axon is a copper wire, then the myelin sheath is like the rubber insulation outside it. And that what it does is it preserves the electrical signal so that it can conduct further than without it. Because if it wasn't anything kind of insulating it, imagine information is lost and being dissipated. So it's not able to reach all the way to the final destination. So you can now appreciate why demyelination is a big deal. Because if you don't have the myelin creating insulation, the information cannot reach where it's supposed to reach, either from outside in, which is an afferent, which is our sensory nerves coming into from the peripheral to the central nervous system, or inside out, if it's the efferent, which is part of the motor nervous system. You know, you have a thought process, you want to send that from your spine to your fingertips to wiggle that finger, then that efferent or motor neuron is not going to be able to reach there, and the movement can be jerky and twitchy, etc.